The champagne flute shattered in my hand, the glass slicing my palm as her laughter echoed through the oak-paneled dressing room. I stood frozen in the hallway, the velvet box with her grandmother's sapphire ring heavy in my pocket, while her words clawed at my chest. Imagine if Derek just barged in and took me away, like in the movies. Her bridesmaids' giggles followed, sharp and conspiratorial, like the sound of a guillotine dropping. I pressed my bleeding hand against my tuxedo, the crimson stain blooming like a warning I'd ignored too long. The morning had started with sunlight spilling through the stained-glass windows of the old vineyard estate, casting kaleidoscope colors across the polished floors. I'd woken with a nervous buzz, the kind that makes your skin hum and your heart race with something between joy and dread. Emily, my fiancée, had been radiant at the rehearsal dinner the night before, her hazel eyes catching the candlelight as she toasted to our forever. I'd believed her. I'd always believed her, even when her phone buzzed late at night with messages she dismissed as work, or when she'd linger too long at the bar with Derek, her ex, at our engagement party. Old friends, she'd said, her smile tight. I'd nodded, swallowing the unease like bitter wine. Now, standing outside her dressing room, the air felt thick, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in. My hand throbbed, blood dripping onto the hardwood, each drop a metronome counting down to something I couldn't name. I wanted to barge in, to demand answers, but my feet were rooted, my breath shallow. What did she mean, like in the movies? Was it a joke? A fantasy? Or something worse, something real? The sapphire ring burned in my pocket, a symbol of a promise I'd thought was unbreakable. I forced myself to move, retreating to the groom's suite, where my brother, Matt, was adjusting his tie in front of a gilded mirror. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, his grin fading when he saw the blood. "Jesus, Nick, what happened?" "Cut myself," I muttered, wrapping my hand in a handkerchief. I couldn't tell him. Not yet. The words were too raw, too jagged, like glass in my throat. Matt raised an eyebrow but didn't push. He never did. That was his way, steady, unflappable, the opposite of me. I envied it now, as my mind spiraled, replaying every moment with Emily over the past year. Her late nights at the office, her sudden trips to clear her head. The way her laughter had sounded just now, free, unguarded, not the careful chuckle she gave me when I proposed. I sank into a leather armchair, the scent of polished wood and whiskey faint in the air. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Can't wait to see you at the altar. Love you." My thumb hovered over the screen, torn between replying and hurling the phone against the wall. Was she lying even now? Or was I overreacting, twisting an innocent joke into betrayal? Doubt gnawed at me, a familiar ache. I'd always been the one to overthink, to see shadows where there were none. But those giggles, they weren't innocent. They were knowing. The ceremony was an hour away. Guests were arriving, their chatter drifting through the open window like a distant storm. I pictured Derek, with his easy smirk and broad shoulders, crashing through the doors, sweeping Emily into his arms while I stood there, helpless. The image was so vivid it felt like a memory, not a fear. I clenched my fist, pain flaring from the cut. I needed to know. I needed to see her. I slipped out of the suite, weaving through the bustling estate. The vineyard was alive with the scent of crushed grapes and blooming roses, the late summer heat pressing against my skin. I found her in the garden, alone for a moment, adjusting her veil in the reflection of a fountain. Her white dress glowed against the greenery, and for a second, she was the Emily I'd fallen for. The one who'd cried when I read her my vows in private, who'd promised me forever with a trembling voice. But then she turned and her eyes met mine, and I saw it, a flicker of something. Guilt? Fear? Or was I imagining it? "Nick," she said, her voice soft but strained, like a string about to snap. "You're not supposed to see me yet." "I needed to," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. "I heard you. With your friends. Talking about Derek." Her face froze, the color draining from her cheeks. "What?" she whispered, but it wasn't confusion in her tone. It was caution, like someone caught in a lie. "You said you wished he'd barge in and take you away." My words came out slow, deliberate, each one a stone dropped into still water. "Is that what you want, Emily?" "Him." She laughed, but it was brittle, forced. "It was a joke, Nick." "God, You know how my friends are. They're ridiculous. It didn't mean anything. Didn't it? I stepped closer, my heart pounding so loud I thought she'd hear it. Because it didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like you meant it. Her eyes darted away, toward the fountain, the roses, anywhere but me. You're being paranoid, she said, but her voice trembled, and her hands twisted the lace of her dress. I love you. I'm here, aren't I? I'm marrying you. Then why does it feel like you're already gone? The question slipped out, raw and unfiltered, and for a moment she didn't answer. The silence was deafening, heavier than any words could be. Nick, please, she said finally, reaching for my hand. I pulled back, and her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. I don't know what you want me to say. It was stupid, okay? I shouldn't have said it. But it's not what you think. Then what is it? I demanded, my voice rising. Because I've been ignoring the signs for months. The late nights, the texts, the way you light up around him. Tell me I'm wrong, Emily. Look me in the eyes and tell me there's nothing there. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her silence was an answer, sharper than any confession. My chest tightened, the world tilting beneath me. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to beg her to love me the way I loved her. But all I could do was stand there, bleeding from more than just my hand. The officiant's voice called from the distance, signaling it was time. Guests were taking their seats, the string quartet starting its soft melody. Emily wiped her eyes, her composure returning like a mask. We need to go, she said, her voice flat. This is our day, Nick. Don't ruin it. I followed her, numb, as we walked toward the altar. The crowd smiled, oblivious, their faces a blur of joy and expectation. I stood beside her, reciting vows that felt like ash in my mouth. Her hand was cold in mine, her smile practiced. And then, as the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, I saw him. Derek, standing at the back of the crowd, his eyes locked on Emily. Not a guest. Not invited. Just there, watching, with a look that said he knew something I didn't. My stomach dropped, the sapphire ring in my pocket now a weight I couldn't bear. Emily's hand tightened on mine, but it wasn't comfort, it was control. As we turned to face the crowd, her veil caught the breeze, revealing a single tear on her cheek. Not for me, I realized, but for him. And in that moment, I knew how this movie ended. Not with a grand gesture or a romantic escape, but with a truth I couldn't unsee. She'd married me, but her heart was already running toward someone else. The reception began, all laughter and clinking glasses, but I was elsewhere, replaying her words, her silences, her lies. I excused myself, slipping into the vineyard shadows, where the air was cool and the stars were sharp. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. Where are you? Come back. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled the sapphire ring from my pocket and hurled it into the darkness, watching it disappear among the vines. Let her have her movie ending, I thought. I was done playing the fool.